Hello and welcome. The topic of today is Azure Elastic SAN. We will be setting up Elastic SAN and connecting to it from a Windows server. And not really covering a whole lot of details. If you want the details, a deep dive into the service, then you should probably go and watch John Samuel's video on it. This video will be just speeding through the setup and connecting to it from a VM. So let's head on over to the Azure portal and get started. So I have a resource group provided already, and I have created a VNet, and I have a virtual machine that we will be used to connecting the SAN from. So I'll hit create, and then I'll just search for SAN, hit create on the Elastic SAN, and select Elastic SAN. Make sure that the subscription and resource group is selected accordingly. Give it a name, just use SAN for now. And for redundancy, I will be using LRS. If you're wondering more or you want more information about the differences between LRS and ZRS, I have a video on that. Link is up in the corner, I think, or at least in the description. And let's go with availability zone 1. That is perfectly fine. And for the resource provisioning, I will be setting up a base unit of 1, giving me 1 TB of available data on my Elastic SAN. Then I'll hit next. But before we actually create a volume group, I'm going to be heading to networking, and I'll enable from virtual networks. This will allow me to use a service endpoint as opposed to a private endpoint. If you're deploying this in production environments, you should probably be using private endpoints, but for now, for the sake of simplicity, let's go with this enable from virtual networks that will allow us to use service endpoints instead. Then head back to volume groups, create a volume group, call this group 01, hit next, and then for virtual networks, I'll hit create, add an existing virtual network, and then I will select the VNet that I have already created and the subnet in it, and hit add. Then I'll select create, that will create the volume group, and then head on over to volumes. Create a volume 1, and this will be at 1 TB of size using all of the available storage on my Elastic SAN. Then I'll hit review and create, because we already visited the networking tab, and then review and create again to actually create the resource. And now that the deployment is complete, let's go to resource. Then I'll go to volumes and then select volume 1 and then hit the connect button. And for my sake, I will be using a Windows server, so I'll select Windows. Then I'll just click the copy button and then head on over to my VM. And I'll paste the code and simply run it. Now, if you haven't used iSCSI from your server from beforehand, you will need to, enable the iSCSI service and preferably also enable the multipath IO feature. But now that the script has finished, you can see here over in disk management that I have a brand new disk. So I'll just click online on this disk and I will initialize all of the disks, hit OK, and then once it is done working, I will create a new simple volume, just next through it all, finish. And then if I open up Explorer, I have now a brand new volume that is located on my Elastic SAN. So that is the simple process of creating an Elastic SAN and connecting to it from a virtual machine within Azure. And thanks for watching. Subscribe and all that jazz, and cheers.